Hello and welcome to this little mini edition of Forever Wild. We have Karen Hilbourn here. She is the Mushroom Lady. And why do they call you the Mushroom Lady, and what are we here to learn about today?
I think you coined that name, Mushroom Lady. Mostly because I like mushrooms. I'm a retired teacher and I was looking for a hobby, and as it turns out, mushrooms are an easy hobby, an interesting hobby, and there's a lot of them around. It's also a very free hobby.
Indeed.
So it's just my interest in mushrooms.
That's cool. Now, is everything in your hand that you have right there considered a mushroom? They don't really look like a mushroom.
Most of it does. This is not. Let me lay this down a sec and point this out. This is actually a mushroom knife. It was given to me by a friend, and when you pull it out, you can see, let me see if I can do this without cutting myself. You can see that it has a curvature blade to it, and this is designed for hooking around the stem or stipe of the mushroom. It also has an interesting feature on the back, little brush. You can brush it off.
Cool.
So if we had, excuse me, that one, we could just brush the dirt off of it before we took it inside, and it's just a lot easier to clean up later. It's got a little measuring tool. So, like I said, this was given to me as a friend, and it's one of the knives I use. You don't really have to have one of these. You can use any knife you want in hunting for mushrooms, but you do want to try to cut them off instead of dig them up. So,
why would you want to cut them off instead of dig them up?
Well, mushrooms grow from mycelium. Mycelium is to a mushroom what a trunk is to a tree. It is the mushroom's trunk. It actually grows under the ground, and where we're standing right now, you can see the wooded area behind us. We're probably standing on about 300 acres below our feet of mushroom mycelium or mushroom trunk. The mycelium is like a spider web. It's designed it can feed the trees, and it does, and it's very selective about some of the trees it feeds. If it likes a tree, it'll feed it. If it doesn't care too much for the tree's probably not going to get a lot of nutrients.
Okay, good deal, good deal. Well, we've got some interesting things down here. Why don't you take us through some of the different examples of what you call mushrooms that you find in the forest down here.
Okay, let's take a look at what you have in your hand there first. This is actually Play-Doh.
Okay.
And we have 3 of the ones we were interested in showing you. I actually broke one of the other ones. But with any mushroom, it has a cap or the top, which is usually kind of smooth, and it has an underside. And under the cap, it might look something like this, which we would call gills, just like a fish's gills, and it's because it's in folds, one fold after another. Another one might be ridges, which wouldn't be quite as clear as the gills are on this one. It might also have pores, which is what you would very commonly see right now. Pore means hole. And they're tubes up inside the mushroom. It's how they gather fluids, and it's also how they release their spores or reproducing body parts. This one.
That was one with gills right there. Look
yes,
there.
we will look at that. Let's
Our
see if we
friend,
can hold that up.
Caleb,
thank you, Caleb.
Caleb Kreider is our intern right here that brought this to us, and he's been out hunting mushrooms in the woods. Thank you, Caleb.
So,
all right.
This is the gills we're talking about, and we'll do a spore print on this one thanks to Caleb. We'll do a spore print on this one later and see if we can get it to release its spores, and we'll see what color they are. The color of those spores has a strong indication as to what type of mushroom it is. It's like a fingerprint for us. Spore print for a mushroom is an identifying characteristic. But we also have one that has what we call teeth. They're not hard teeth like our teeth. They're just sort of designed like teeth, so they call them teeth. And this is to mimic a lion's mane that would grow. If this is the tree trunk, it would grow off the tree like this, about maybe 20 feet up or so. And some mushrooms also grow in this fashion, up and down, and they would have teeth on the bottom, on the underside. So those are the main underbody parts or undercap parts that you can use to recognize for what a mushroom is, what kind it is.
Well, what are we looking at here? This one's kind of a woody feeling mushroom. It's really dried out. It's been in the building a while.
This has pores underneath, and you probably can't see it from the camera because they're teeny, tiny pores. And again, the pores would be holes that would go from where you see them at the bottom of the cap all the way up into the cap where it's using those nutrients. I'm not exactly sure what kind this is. It might be woody because it's very old. It might have been very soft one day, and I'm guessing it probably was. But not sure what kind that is, but it's some type of polypore. Poly means many holes. So it would be some type of polypore. I have some others here that are interesting. This is also a polypore. It's I'm showing you the bottom of this. It has tiny little holes in it. This is very old. It's been dried in the dehydrator. So it looks brown on the bottom. When this is fresh and new, it'll be white on the bottom and very pretty. The top, and it again grows out like a bracket. If this is the tree trunk, it would grow out in this fashion. And they grow more lower to the ground. You see these a lot in the swampy, wet areas. This is a very, very special mushroom because it's a cancer fighter. It's called Reishi. And most of us know somebody with cancer in our lives, whether it's close to us or some sort of family or friend. But Reishi is used to fight cancer. And if you look on the back of their medicine bottle, you're going to see Reishi, because this is our future antibiotics. These are being used definitely for different forms of cancer and immunity. And we have some other mushrooms that are used for different immunity sources as well. And since we're on that, this is another one that's used as a very highly medicinal mushroom. It's also a polypore. When this is fresh, again, it's white on the bottom. This is called turkey tail. We asked the kids the other day when they were out here what bird this reminded them of. And they all said turkey. So it's easily recognizable by its appearance. It looks like a turkey's tail. There's some lookalikes. This one, when fresh, is very white on the bottom. For a teacher, we tell them it looks like liquid paper. For children, we tell them it looks like white paint. So turkey tail is an immunity mushroom. You would use the broth from either this one or the reishi, and you could drink it as tea. I tend to make rice or pasta with it, but it can be used in either one of those two manners.
That's really cool. Now I've got a question for you. Look down here at this. You were talking about something that's called mycelium a while ago. Okay, you see this little tubes right here? They're growing in this substrate. Can you zoom in on that and get a real good picture of that? That's really interesting stuff. These are what you would call the mycelium, correct?
This is mycelium. You can see it here. It's starting to come out. You can actually see it behind here even better. If we twist this log just a little, you can see a lot of mycelium that this log is probably eat up with it since it's starting to come out. But what the mycelium does in a deceased log like this is it'll break it back down to dirt.
Okay.
So the mycelium reinstates our forest to its original state, which was dirt.
So you can feel the dirt here, this kind of black soil. That's what's being released from the carbon from the log here. That's really cool. That's interesting. Now, how deep did you say the mycelium can go beneath your feet? That's kind of fascinating.
About 300 or 400 acres below your feet. So it's the ground, pretty much anywhere you stand in the woods or the forest, even in your yard, mycelium can be spreading up under your feet. It can go very deep and it can go a good ways out. And as I said earlier, it tends to feed the trees.
Right.
So it's not selective. A lot of us don't like to get bumped by holly. Mycelium doesn't mind. They'll feed holly trees too. They feed poison ivy.
Well, that's interesting. That's really cool. So, you're basically looking at several different types. What you call, let's go over this one more time. You said the polypore has many pores. Did you know Native Americans use those? What do you think they use that for?
They probably used this one similar to this, which might be a birch polypore. I'm not sure what this one came off of, but they might have tended to use one like this as a fire starter because it's very dry wood. I tend to do that. And if I'm going from one place to another, I'll dry these in the dehydrator so there's no animals being carried from one area to another, which could cause diseases in trees.
Gotcha. So that particular one there will cause a disease in a tree?
No. If you carry insects, say from here at Playcard to somewhere in Virginia because you're camping out there, then you might be carrying animals that are within that to a different area, and the species of trees there may not appreciate that too much.
Oh, gotcha.
So the idea in firewood is to buy your firewood local.
Okay.
But with these, you can actually dehydrate them in the dehydrator, and you're good to go.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's a good little piece of kindling.
That's cool.
One other thing about this one I wanted to point out, and I've found this out just recently, is that some of these polypores are being melted down and used for leather. The leather is being used to make belts, car seat covers, golf cart covers. Anything you would make leather out of, these are being used. Another use for these that is being used right now is they're used to make brick mortar. So in the future, it would be our hope that this can be used to build houses.
Cool.
Isn't that cool? That's just the coolest thing I ever heard.
That is fascinating.
It is.
That's really cool. Well, we really appreciate you coming out there. Is there anything else you'd like to say about fungus or anything interesting you have here?
Maybe one more thing here would be important to point out.
All right.
Hand me that.
There you go.
Yes. Thank you. This is our biggest project as far as mushroom goes out here. Contacted an organization called Fungi Perfecti. They sent me a bunch of these little spore plugs. You can see how small they are. Inside this plug is mycelium and spore for a specific type of mushroom, in this case, shiitake. Shiitake grows on oak better than anything else. They'll grow on hardwoods. Their choice is oak.
Are they edible? Shiitake mushrooms edible?
Shiitake mushrooms are very edible. They are a choice mushrooms. But the organization sent us about $400 worth of these to use here at Playcard. And what we do is we drill the hole. Mr. Ben probably remembers about how deep those are.
About 1.25 inches.
About 1 1/4 inches.
About 5/16.
And we would take these little spore plugs, we'd give them to the kids that come out to visit, stick it in there a little bit, hand them a little rubber mallet and have them pound it in. Just like that. It's very simple to pound in. This one's already got some pounded in from the other night. And then we would cover this with either beeswax, or in our case we're using soy wax, some kind of natural wax. We'd also paint the ends of it, and that would keep other insects from getting in there and eating our mushroom that we've planted. And this becomes a mushroom garden.
A garden in a log. That's really
a garden
cool.
in a log. You can stack these up and just have your own mushrooms growing in the backyard.
How close can you get the different spore plugs to each other? What's recommended on that? Do you know?
About 2 inches.
Okay.
You want to alternate, as this one's done. The holes are already alternate. That just gives them a little bit of room to spread their roots out and grow, spread their mycelium out and grow into this log. And as long as this, another thing I read recently is once this grows its mushrooms out, we can let it dry out and then put it in ice water overnight.
Really?
Pull it out the next day and it thinks it's spring. And it will grow the mushrooms again. And you can continue to lay other logs on top of it, and it will infiltrate the mycelium from this log to another.
Cool. So you can get multiple harvests out of this one log.
You can continue until you're so tired of mushrooms you can't eat anymore.
That's fascinating.
It is.
Cool.
It's more and more fascinating the more I learn. You can see why I've become very interested in mushrooms.
Do you have an idea how much it would cost to get those spore plugs if you were going to get some on the market, so the viewers out there would kind of have an idea?
I'm just going to speculate, but I'd say about a quart bag of them might cost you around $100.
Okay.
And that would be full. What they sent us was 2 gallon bags stuffed to the brim.
Right.
So we guesstimated about $400 worth of spore prints that were donated by Fungi Perfecti.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Big shout out to them. That's a thank you.
It is.
For sure.
They're very appreciative.
Absolutely.
And the kids learn a lot. We've given some to teachers to grow in their classrooms and around their schools and that. So we're trying to get these out and let people enjoy them.
Before we kind of sign off here, what's something you need to tell them very important about the consumption of mushrooms out there? What's very important about it?
For the most part, I would never eat a mushroom unless I had a professional around that told me what it was. I would have to be absolutely sure. And even then, I do my own research. Bottom of the line is do your own research, because a lot of people get excited about mushrooms like I do, and they want it to be what they want to see. And it's not always what you wish it was. And so there are certain mushrooms that grow in this area that can be very deadly, and you could only try them once. You never get another chance to try them again. So it's important to know what you're consuming. What you buy from the grocery store, we assume is safe. And I've never known it to not be safe. What you get from the woods is actually more pure and stronger, but you want to know what it is.
Right.
And also mushrooms need to be cooked. As I've always said, you don't know which fox peed on them last, so they need to be cleaned and cooked.
That's for sure. Well, how about people that are allergic to mushrooms? Could they consume a mushroom in the outdoors would be the same allergen as, say, one that was grown commercially?
If you're allergic to mushrooms, it's kind of like being allergic to peanuts. And one of the things that's being suggested, which is certainly at a person's own discretion, is to try, like for example, if we used the reishi and got some broth from it, if they tried a watered down version of the broth, that you could actually build your immunity up to it.
Right.
And so, again, that would be at the person's discretion, but it's the same philosophy with peanuts and any allergen, is that you can take a small watered down version of it and maybe build your immunity back up to it. But honestly, if I were allergic to it, I'd find something else to eat.
That's very well said. Yeah, and in a survival situation, for the record here, don't just go eating everything out of the woods. Make sure they eat, somebody goes with you that knows what they're doing. They eat it first, and if they don't die, and you give them 24 to 48 hours, and then you consume it. Because mushrooms can be hazardous to your health.
They really
There are a
can.
lot of mimics out there. There's thousands of species within these states that are just beautiful, but they are deadly. Some of them can be, what are some of the ones that are deadly in our area? I know fly agaric is one of them we spoke
I'm glad
about.
you said that, because I have a hard time remembering the word agaric. But fly agaric is a deadly mushroom. We have destroying angel, and you can guess why that might be considered deadly. It has a very fairy dust powder around it and up the stike. We have death cap. Again, you can figure out why that's one. And death caps are honestly, in September, you see them in everybody's yard. They are so common. But a lot of animals will die from eating those. Dogs tend to ingest them sometimes.
Oh, they do?
It's very, very deadly.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes the more beautiful a mushroom is, the more deadly it can be. So be very careful out there when you talk about consuming mushrooms.
Right. Just
But
know
they
what
are
you have.
fascinating.
Know what you have in your hand and have no doubt.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much, Karen. We're getting ready to go in there and you're getting ready to deliver a program. And for more information about how to learn about mushrooms, we're going to put Karen's contact information up here if you're interested in learning about it or having her come out to kind of do a little program. Would you mind if they knew that out there in the public?
That'd be perfectly fine.
That'd be great. So if you'd like to speak to Karen Hilbourn, our mushroom lady out here, please do so. And for Forever Wild, I'm Ben Abercrombie, and this is Karen Hilbourn. Stay mushroom madness crazy.